Your fingerprint is unique. Literally 1 in 6 billion unique. But here's what most people don't know. That same fingerprint might also reveal something deeply personal about who you actually are as a person. And I'm not talking about pseudoscience. I'm talking about real patterns that researchers have been studying for decades that connect the whirls and loops on your fingertips to personality traits, behavior patterns, and even how you approach life itself. So stick around, because in the next few minutes, you're going to learn what your fingerprint is actually saying about you. And trust me, once you see this, you'll never look at your hands the same way again. Let me start with something wild. In the 1920s, a psychologist named Charlotte Wolfe began studying fingerprints in a completely different way than law enforcement ever had. Instead of using them to identify criminals, she wanted to know if they could identify personality. She spent years analyzing thousands of fingerprints and cross-referencing them with psychological profiles of the people who had them. What she found was shocking. Fingerprints weren't random. They followed patterns, and those patterns seemed to correlate with distinct personality types. Now, your fingerprints form during the second trimester of pregnancy. Around week 16, the fetus develops friction ridges on the fingertips. And here's the crucial part. These ridges are influenced by genetics, hormones, and the exact conditions in the womb at that specific moment. It's like nature's fingerprint on your personality before you're even born. Once those ridges form, they never change. They're permanent. They're you. There are 4 main types of fingerprint patterns, and each one tells a different story about who you are. First, we have loops. Loops are the most common pattern, found on about 60 to 70% of the population. If you have loops on your fingerprints, you're probably someone who values harmony and connection. Loop people are typically adaptable, flexible, and they genuinely care about what others think. They're the ones who remember birthdays, who ask follow-up questions, who make people feel seen. But here's the shadow side. Loop people can sometimes struggle with indecision because they're always considering multiple perspectives. They want everyone to be happy, which means they sometimes forget to prioritize their own needs. Loop people make incredible friends, but they often end up being the therapist in the group. Then there are whirls. Whirls look like tiny spirals on your fingertips, and they're found on about 25 to 35% of people. Whirl people are the independent thinkers. They're driven, ambitious, and they have this intense focus that other people sometimes find intimidating. Whirl people are natural leaders. They know what they want, and they're willing to work harder than anyone else to get it. They're the entrepreneurs, the CEOs, the people who build empires. But whirl people can also be stubborn. They trust their instincts so much that they sometimes miss important information from other people. They're confident to the point of isolation. Whirl people change the world, but they often do it alone. Archers are the third pattern, and they're rare. Only about 3 to 5% of people have pure archers. Arch people are the idealists. They're principled, they're ethical, and they have this unwavering sense of right and wrong. Arch people are the activists, the artists, the people who stand up for what they believe in, even when it costs them something. They see the world not as it is, but as it could be. They're dreamers with conviction. But arch people can also be perfectionists to the point of paralysis. They set impossibly high standards for themselves and everyone around them. They burn out because they care too deeply about things they can't control. And then there are tented archers. These are even rarer, found on maybe 1 to 2% of the population. Tented arch people are intense. They're sensitive, they're creative, and they experience emotions more deeply than most people. Tented arch people are often artists, musicians, writers, therapists. They have this ability to feel what other people are feeling without anyone saying a word. They're empathetic to an almost supernatural degree. But that sensitivity comes with a cost. Tented arch people are vulnerable to anxiety and depression because they absorb the emotional energy around them like sponges. They see beauty everywhere, but they also see pain everywhere. Now here's where it gets really interesting. Most people don't have just one pattern. You have 10 fingerprints, and the combination of patterns on your hands creates this incredibly detailed personality profile. Someone with loops on most fingers, but a whirl on their thumb, might be someone who's generally easygoing and collaborative, but has this core of ambition and drive that only emerges when they're pursuing something they really care about. Someone with arches and tented arches might be an artist or a healer, someone whose entire life is about creating meaning and helping others feel less alone. There's also research suggesting that people with more whorls tend to be left-handed more often than the general population. They also tend to have higher testosterone exposure in the womb, which correlates with certain cognitive patterns and risk-taking behaviors. People with more loops tend to be more right-handed and show patterns consistent with higher estrogen exposure, which correlates with social awareness and emotional intelligence. And before anyone gets upset, this isn't about gender. Men and women can have any combination of these patterns. This is about biology, not stereotypes. I'll be honest with you. Some scientists dismiss fingerprint personality analysis as pseudoscience. They say the correlations are weak, the sample sizes are small, and the methodology isn't rigorous enough. And they have a point. This isn't proven science the way that, say, DNA testing is. But here's what's interesting. The correlations that have been found are consistent. Researchers in different countries, working independently, have found similar patterns, and that suggests there's something real here, even if we don't fully understand the mechanism yet. The truth is, your fingerprints are a window into your biology. They formed under specific conditions in the womb, and those same conditions that shaped your ridges also shaped your brain. Your neurotransmitters, your hormones, your baseline temperament. Your fingerprints aren't causing your personality. They're not determining your destiny, but they might be reflecting something fundamental about how you're wired. So the next time you look at your hands, really look at them. See those patterns? Those aren't just random markings. They're a record of who you were always meant to become. They're a reminder that you're not a blank slate. You came into this world with certain gifts, certain challenges, certain ways of seeing and being that are uniquely yours. Your fingerprints are your signature, and now you know what they're actually signing.